All right, friends, welcome to the next lecture in our Naturally Speaking series. I'm really happy to have with me tonight Sabrena Stembridge to speak on the cultural resources of Cabrillo National Monument, that place that we all love. A couple of housekeeping items before we get started here. This is a webinar format, so you're not going to be able to see other participants, only the hosts and the panelists. To ask questions, I ask that you use the Q&A function. It's either at the top of your screen or the bottom of your screen. You'll see it looks like a little couple of bubbles and it says Q&A. And what that'll do is that'll queue them up in order. All right. And then throughout, so you can ask those questions anytime. You can type your answer in there, your question in there. And then throughout, I will read these questions to Sabrena to answer. And you can use, if Sabrena decides to ask you some questions for audience participation, you can use the chat function at the bottom of your screen to answer her questions as well. All right, I'll ask that everyone keeps their mic muted, right, to avoid distractions here or disruptions. And then lastly, captions are available by clicking the CC or closed caption icon. It's, again, either at the top or the bottom of your screen, depending on what format of Zoom you're using. All right, let me end my show here. Now, it's my great pleasure to introduce to you our Cultural Resources Specialist, Sabrena Stembridge, to speak on the cultural resources of Cabrillo National Monument. And I'm making my introduction really brief because I know she's going to talk more about herself in just a moment. So without further ado, if you take it away, Sabrena.
Okay, well, thank you so much, Sam. Everyone, hello. Thank you so much for being here. I have been very excited to be a speaker for this event for a while now. And what my supervisor has been half jokingly, but also half seriously referring to as culturally speaking. And I wish I had thought of that title when I submitted my original idea first, but for now, we'll just go with I will be speaking on the cultural resources of Cabrillo National Monument. So let me go ahead and get my presentation queued up. And here we go. This is going to take just a moment here. Okay. Little sneak peek of what's to come. Let's see, it should come in. There we go. All right. And Sam, can you confirm for me that you are seeing my PowerPoint presentation? Excellent. Okay. So, yes, hi. I am Sabrena Stembridge. I am the Cultural Resources Specialist at Cabrillo National Monument. I am actually the first Cultural Resources Specialist, as well as, I believe, the first Cultural Resources person at Cabrillo. So I feel like I've got big old boots to fill, and I hope I'm fulfilling them. And this is going to be a very exciting time, especially Q&A at the end of the session. Any questions y'all have for me, please ask away. And I will go ahead and get started. A little bit of background about myself here first, though. I'm going to move, sorry. Let me get my screen ready to go. There we go. Okay, so as you can see from these beautiful selected photos, I got my bachelor's degree at California State University, Northridge. I also did a stint in Washington, D.C. at the Smithsonian Museums in the winter, which is why I'm all bundled up in there. And my bachelor's was actually focused, it was anthropology, but it was focused on cultural anthropology until at the end of my degree, I needed to finish my credits, and my undergrad had the first archaeology field school that it had hosted in years and years and years. I was like, well, all right, I'm a cultural anthropologist, but I guess I'll do archaeology too. Clearly, based on this middle photo of me holding our total station, recording a site, I kind of got a little Twitter-pated, fell in love, and it's just been where my heart's set since. A fun fact as a background further for me, I don't have any photos on this one, but I actually was a veterinarian technician for 8 years before switching fields entirely to anthropology. When I was a kid, I thought I wanted to be a veterinarian. You know, you ask your kid, oh, what do you want to be? Oh, a veterinarian. Turns out after working at a veterinarian's office as a technician, I just love animals. Animals are super cool, love them a lot. Being a veterinarian wasn't what I wanted to do with my life. And when I found anthropology, I was like, aha, here it is. Here's what I want to do. But I had the idea of, after getting my bachelor's degree, I would further my education. I wanted to really put it to the test, though, work in the field for a little bit first, see if it was a fit and if it would be fulfilling, fill my passion, fill my heart, was my life's calling. So my first archaeology job was in Southeast California at Ocotillo Wells SBRA. This is me and one of my team members in the middle of the Colorado desert recording a site. And you will find some very interesting things in the desert, beautiful landscape, random piles of wood, enormous arroyos that you have to traverse, and sometimes you lose half of your team to the other side. You know, that's just how it goes. But I had a great time. I was an archaeology technician first, and then I became a project lead. And it was just an absolute pleasure serving my time there. And I learned so much, and it's really what got that flame struck and continuing on. I also did a season with the Bureau of Land Management, California Desert District. And believe it or not, this huge tree is actually a tiny, tiny, tiny bush, but it was too cute not to include in this presentation. And I found anthropology as a field could hold so much within it, both the cultural side of the intangible feeling and experience, as well as the tangible material objects of artifacts on the archaeology side of things too. Another season I spent was in the Humboldt-Toyabe National Forest, Ruby Mountains area. And again, this is a slightly different environment. I'm still enjoying archaeology. It really seems like this is it for me. And it's been years since this point, but my background with science, with anthropology, with veterinarian, it all kind of comes together in the field of anthropology that I find so fulfilling and so heartening. And I may or may not be also trying to convince all of you that anthropology and cultural anthropology and archaeology is the coolest. We'll see if y'all agree with me still at the end of this presentation. The Ruby Mountains area was gorgeous, can dump sites and all. In this middle photo, you can actually see that pond in the background. That's a natural hot spring. And a fun fact about this wire pit, we lost our data after a full day of recordation and we could not find. It's a 5 by 5 foot pit of wire and we couldn't find it, try as we might. And that's just sometimes how it goes when you're doing archaeology. You lose your data, but you still have your notes. And that'll go in the record. It'll be remembered forever as a wire pit that was. All of this finally led me to the University of Colorado, Denver. I knew I'd found what I wanted to do. I knew that this was the career for me. Both the cultural anthropology, my experience at the veterinarian included, with archaeology, my time at the Smithsonian museums. Anthropology was it, archaeology had my heart, museums had my passion, and the University of Colorado, Denver is where I got my master's degree. And that was just recently that I graduated with my master's degree and finally came to Cabrillo National Monument as a cultural resources specialist. And it's been an absolute pleasure ever since I started back in February, if you can believe it. And that was the end of February. It's just hitting the ground running and enjoying every single minute of it. And so I'm now back here in beautiful California and sunny San Diego. Have to say I could not be more pleased. Well, let's talk culture and science. This is a science series, and maybe, I hope again that there'll be this understanding that culture is natural, right? It's a natural part of the world. Us people, us humans, we are part of the world too. And the things that we create, the things that we do are all, naturally speaking, culturally relevant and scientifically interesting. So let's go ahead and do some definitions real quick, just to see where we're at. So science can have many definitions. The one I am using was created by the Science Council. Science is the pursuit of knowledge and understanding of the natural and social world following a systematic methodology based on evidence. And I really like that definition. I think it's super cool. I'm personally quite fond of this systematic way of knowing built from observation and testing. So now, how do we define culture? Culture, again, has, just like science, many definitions. The National Park Service Pacific West region uses this definition, which is that culture is a system of behaviors, including economic, religious, and social, beliefs, including values and ideologies, and social arrangements. So it's a bit of a grab bag, a bit of a very wide definition, but that's because culture is a very wide thing. It really comes down to the intangible, that feeling, that experience, that association of context, and the tangible, those material objects or structures, all of these tangibles and intangibles coming together holistically. So what I usually say is that culture is a way of life and living. But what are cultural resources? I'm a cultural resources specialist, so what does that mean? Well, one can say that cultural resources consist of a number of physical, chemical, or biological features. At the same time, it consists of ideas, events, and relationships. Cultural resources are treasured for the connections they provide between people and cultural traditions, between people and the world at large. It's that holistic, intangible, tangible, coming together, creating that context, both big and small. And when we look at Cabrillo National Monument, we have to ask ourselves, what counts as a cultural resource, right? Well, when we are looking at our system of knowing and wanting to put it into action, helpfully the National Park Service Pacific West region provides some guidance in that area. We want to know what we have, so we do research to make thoughtful deliberation and planning for informed stewardship. We need to be able to take care of what we have. And the Pacific West Region Cultural Resources Division provides these park programs: cultural anthropology and history, cultural landscapes and archaeology, museums, and historic structures. All of these programs have enough in common and enough distinction to provide their own programs, but they work together, right? You're not going to be able to have one without the other, but it provides focus. That's how I like to look at it anyway. So how does this process apply at Cabrillo National Monument? Well, I'm going to do a deep dive into our view building. It is currently undergoing some construction. It's closed, as you may or may not be aware, and it's being treated and rehabilitated based on guidance provided in our Visitor Center Historic Structure Report, produced by the National Park Service's Historic Preservation Training Center, HPTC, in collaboration with the Pacific West Regional Office and Cabrillo National Monument. So I'm going to provide some background so we know how we got here and where we're going. If you haven't heard of Mission 66, you're about to learn just a little of it. The National Park Service began this huge 10-year-long building campaign. Started in 56, thereabouts is when construction officially started, though plans had been in the work beforehand, and then construction stops in 66. This was a campaign based off of how high visitation was across the entire park system, but many of the parks had sites and facilities suffering from underfunding as well as under maintenance. We all know how that can be. And the people of Cabrillo National Monument back in the day created a master plan, Mission 66 edition, and they really focused on a visitor center that needed to be a place where visitor services of the quality and quantity the public is entitled to expect that could be created. So Cecil Doty, who's a prolific National Park Service architect, the Western Office for Design and Construction, and Frank L. Hope, prolific San Diego architect, all came together, provided plans and drawings to create the Mission 66 Vision Cabrillo National Monument Edition. And this is a drawing of the Visitor Center sign construction. Obviously, the Visitor Center complex includes not just the View building, but the signs and other buildings as well. This sign, I think, is pretty neat. As you can see in the little description below, that or the original earlier drawings just had a decorative grouping of poles, and I'm just so curious what that would have looked like. But if you look at this final version, you can see what is now there today. 1967 photo and today. Apparently the bronze ship had not yet been installed, but it was in the plans, as you saw in the previous photo. So it was there all along in heart. Designs also included landscaping, and this was a huge part, especially including plants and the plants that would become associated with the landscape of this visitor center complex to create the feeling of the Mission 66 vision. Unfortunately, as you may or may not see, one of those plants that they included in this was ice plant, which as a resources, yes, Sam, yes, resources person working with some of our wonderful natural resources technicians, I have quickly come to learn ice plant should not be included in our landscaping plans, and we are working on that currently as the View building and the visitor center complex undergoes rehabilitation. So I hope everybody will be able to enjoy that when it comes to fruition. And in this drawing, we see proposed furnishing for the visitor center lobby, AKA our fantastic View building. And then in 1966, the View building is constructed. It's gorgeous. You'll notice quickly, I'm sure, a couple of changes that have been made since then. But first, the View building, why it was created in the way that it was meant to showcase the panoramic views of the peninsula, as well as be an exemplary Mission 66 design. It was also the largest Mission 66 designed structure at that time of Cabrillo National Monument, and some of its major features included the Irimoya roof, the 4 all-glass sides, the clear storage allow-see windows, exposed wood ceiling with gluval beams, red cedar shingle roof, 12-inch diameter fir columns, tiled interior and exterior floor, the sparse open floor plan in general, and a dark interior. So today, here is our fantastic View building. The major, to me, one of the major changes are these, oh gosh, my brain just completely kaputzed on me on what these skylights. The skylights, they were created, they were added in the 80s. It's unclear to me currently why they decided the building needed skylights. I guess they The purpose of the building was changing, though, as decades passed from 66 all the way up to the 80s and then all the way up to today. Things needed to be added, such as updated lighting, updated electrical systems, and we wanted to better accommodate our partner, Cabrillo National Monument Foundation, and include their park store in our building, and as well as a seismic retrofitting that was done in 2014. The View building, the visitor center in general, saw changes as visitation kept increasing, and we are doing our best now to meet that visitation expectation. The View building is actually a contributing structure, to the Cabrillo National Monument's Visitor Center Historic District. If you didn't know, the National Register of Historic Places, which was established by the 1966 National Historic Preservation Act, is an official list of districts, sites, buildings, structures, and objects deemed worthy of preservation for their historical significance and value. Whew, mouthful, let me tell you what. But it's important to be on the register because it helps us take care of our resources. And being on the register means that we can do so with a lot more oomph behind us. The Visitor Center Historic District was determined eligible to be on the register based on 3 criteria: its association with the Mission 66 program and how this program impacted Cabrillo National Monument. As an example of a Mission 66 visitor center, including the buildings and landscape design, with a Southern California coastal context. And an additional special consideration was given for a property that had achieved significance within the last 50 years. Normally, to be on the register, a structure has to be, or a structure, a site, district, etc., has to be older than 50 years, unless it has just gained such local, national, whatever level of significance that it is considered worthy, essentially. And so all of this was researched and documented in our historic district's historic structure report, which also included planning for treatment so we can be proper stewards of this structure. So we have our research background, we are creating the plans for what to do, and we're moving into the stewardship of caring for our resource. So stewardship, the historic structure stewardship follows the Secretary of Interior's standards for the treatment of historic properties. The 4 treatments, as you can see on the screen here, are preservation, restoration, reconstruction, and rehabilitation. I'll get to sustainability in a moment. The 4 treatments are the P3Rs. Now, to remember what the 4 treatments are, you can use the analogy of a clock. If we are going to be preserving something, it means that we are going to stop the clock. We are not going to be adding to a structure. We're not going to be taking away from it either. We want to keep it as is. If we are undergoing restoration as a treatment, that means we are rewinding the clock to how it was in the past, right? We want to restore it to its historic significant time period. If we are reconstructing a structure, well, that means that the structure no longer exists. So the clock analogy kind of falls apart with the reconstruction one. But imagine as we are creating, or rather reconstructing, our historic structure from the ground up, we are restarting the clock. We are building the clock at the same time. Finally, with rehabilitation, we will be moving the clock forward to bring a building up to modern standards. And this treatment is often paired with the idea of sustainable adaptive reuse. So that's where sustainability comes in. It's paired with rehabilitation. Our plans for the View building is kind of a fun combination of restoration and rehabilitation because it includes some of both. The skylights are going to be removed and replaced, And the current gray asphalt shingle roof will be replaced. There will be the new tiling. We'll also be removing the exterior gray paint, and the wood will be restored to a natural finish. And we'll be replacing the current clear story casement windows with jalousie windows to fit the original design, as well as improve air circulation and ventilation in the building. They'll be easy to open and close. I'm sure those in the visitor center in our view building will greatly appreciate that. Our plans also include the planting of native vegetation. We want to have our native vegetation back. We want that habitat for our natural resources too, care for the whole environment. And going for that rehabilitation, we will be modernizing some features, including our lightning protection and concealing some of those wires that had to be put into place for announcement systems and internet and all that fun stuff. Going back to our system of research, planning, and stewardship, I wanted to see and give you maybe a bit of a sneak peek of ideas in the future of what's to come, of how else we can apply this system to our military history exhibit. As a bit of fun background for you, the military history exhibit is housed in what is known as the Army Radio Station building in the National Register of Historic Places determination for eligibility. It was built in 1918 in the Harbor Defense style, and it had 3 rooms: the operating room, the generator room, and the sleeping room, and 2 radio towers, although these radio towers were later removed. It was the Army's first radio station in the harbor defenses of San Diego, hence the Army Radio Room. And it was operational until 1936 as such, until it became the meteorological station for Coast Artillery during World War II. During its time here with Cabrillo, it has also served as a superintendent's office, a storage space, and it may have also been the entrance station at one point. I'm unsure on that one. I'm sure somebody knows though. In 1998, this is 25 years ago, the Army Radio Room was added to the register for the Cabrillo National Monument Historic District. So that is the entire park, essentially. As well as in 98 to 99, there was some rehabilitation done for an exhibit. The windows were rehabilitated, an additional opening was added between one room and the other on the interior to increase circulation, make sure people aren't going to be too squashed in the back. And that 2014 seismic refit where jousts needed to be fixed and things fastened into place to make sure it wasn't a falling hazard. And so that's how we can really put all of this together, right? We're doing our researching, we're planning, and then we will be stewards for what comes next. And what that means is that it just keeps going. It's always a cycle, it's always a process, and we will put it to its best use, hopefully. Other reports that we can do to help us take care, be proper stewards of our resources, includes archaeological overview and assessments. Here's a lovely photo of one of our law enforcement officers undergoing archaeological survey with an archaeologist from the Santa Monica Mountains NRA. We can also conduct an ethnographic overview and assessment, and this is a really cool map that I was able to find on the website called kumeyaïplacenames.com. Highly suggest you check it out. It's really cool, really great resource. And we can also finalize our scope of collection statement for our museum program. You may or may not be aware that Cabrillo National Monument does have a museum program. We do have collections housed on site. And I thought it would be pretty fun to host a bit of a behind the scenes look at our museum storage facility for all of you right now. But there's just a lot of opportunity going forward with cultural resources. I'm so thrilled to be a part of it, really looking forward to what we can do together. And now let us step into our museum storage facility. I wish this was a video, but it is just a tour via photos. So come with me into our beautiful facility. All right, first stop on our tour is our office space. It's a very old computer that we have here, but it's a great, great office. There is a fireproof cabinet hosting our accession and catalog files off camera right. Further into the building, we come to our processing room where collections are prepared for storage in the collection facility room, whether this means certain photos need to be taken or if we have textiles and we're unsure if there may be any pests, they would go in the freezer just to be safe, to let all of the creepy crawlies die away so that the textile can be properly stored without worrying about infestation in our collection. And going further in, finally our collection space. We have giant rolling shelves, multiple other units you can't quite see from this angle. We have historic artifacts, including these glass bottles, 7-Up, a grapefruit beverage that I didn't know Canada Dry created back in the day. We also have more historic artifacts as well as natural resources specimens as we work with scientists who are excited to come to our park to look at our tide pools, do science, do research, and it's a pleasure to work side by side cultural and natural resources together. The archives of our collection include one of these historic photos of Old Point Loma Lighthouse, as well as Mrs. Israel's pocket knife. It was gifted in 1964 by a direct descendant of the Israel family. The Israel family, of course, being the family that first stationed at, or were the only family rather, stationed at Cabrillo Lighthouse when it was active. And in our accessions receiving report, we have a description for this pocket knife being 2.5 inches long with a pearl handle, one blade intact, other broken, serrated edges on both sides of case, belonged to Mrs. Israel, probably made in Mexico. And it's always funny with museum accessions and these kinds of reports of, well, was it the descendant of Mrs. Israel who said it was probably made in Mexico, or was it the archivist or the technician who accepted this gift saying it was probably made in Mexico? It's a fascinating find. It is currently accession number 30, catalog number 125. It is recorded in our museum accessions book. We have the original letter of the superintendent of the time thanking Mrs. Israel for her generous donation. And it's these kinds of things that I also love finding, the human experience of museums. I would have to say, though, our collection, probably the largest part of it is our archives. So when a shelving unit says paper, please believe it when it says paper. Part of that archive collection includes park blueprints from the 1930s, as well as boxes and boxes and boxes of documents and books and brochures and other such plans. And that is the end of the museum storage facility tour. I hope if any of y'all have gained a sparked interest in coming to the tour, you can always let me know. I'd be happy to host something actually in person one of these days. But that is the end of my presentation as well. So thank you all so much. It's been an absolute pleasure. And I am ready whenever you are, Sam, for any questions.
Thank you for that, Sabrena. That's very informative. I actually learned a bunch from this talk, especially about our view building. And I don't know about you, but I'm really excited to see what they do with it here as they're restoring it. So we do have a handful of questions here for you. I'm going to start with some of them more kind of relevant to this talk, and then we might backtrack a little bit to some other just kind of fun talking points here.
For sure. Should I? Sorry, quick
No, go
question
for it.
for you too. Should I close out of my PowerPoint presentation or leave it on?
Sure.
This beautiful
Yeah, go
thank
for
you
it.
view. Okay, let's see if I remember how to work
That way we
Zoom.
can see your face.
Oh, here we go. Here we go.
Awesome.
All right.
Great. So let's start with Sandra H's question. She asks, have indigenous artifacts been found at the park?
Thank you so much for that question, Sandra. Yes, indigenous artifacts have indeed been found at the park. And we don't have any in our collection. We are not in the business of hosting any, and if they were, I would make sure they were properly repatriated.
That's a great point. Gary would like to know what your opinion is on the preservation of artifacts and the possible wear and tear of those artifacts through interpreting, displaying of them.
Let's run that question for me one more time.
Gary would like to know what your opinion is about the preservation of artifacts and possible wear and tear that might come from using those artifacts in interpretation or education, or even in display in places like museums.
Okay, yeah. You know, you always want to make sure you're taking best care procedures. Obviously, as objects are handled and used, they will undergo a bit of wear and tear. It's important to make sure that if, as either the exhibit specialist or the museum archivist is taking care of these objects, speak with the curator about what's going on and what you're seeing. And at the same time, it's important to share. Sorry, just saw a cat. It's important to share with our visitors, with our community, what we do have in our collections. And it's a delicate balance, truly, all the time of sharing what we have while also preserving them for the future.
Yeah, that's a really good point, Sabrena, because also we want people to know about their culture and their history, right? And if we're just keeping them hidden away, they might not really connect with it. Just an image they see on the screen versus seeing the actual artifact, right? So I think just like the natural resources, we want people to come and enjoy them, but we also don't want them to be loved to death, right? Mm-hmm. It's that total balance in between. It's a really good point. Eve would like to know if the water feature in the breezeway will be restored.
Ooh, isn't that so cool? That what used to be a water system. Very fascinating. Yes. I don't know currently at this point if it will be restored to a full water fountain, but I think it would be neat if we could do some kind of rehabilitation to make it still sustainable and reminiscent, rather, of how it used to be back in the day. I think that would be a really cool thing to discuss.
Yeah, I agree. Maybe with recirculating water or something. That's, yeah, it'd be beautiful. I'm sure the birds would love it too.
Yes.
Patrick Reitzman would like to know, are there any plans to reconstruct the Mormon coal mine? Are you familiar with the Mormon coal mine?
You know, I just recently heard about the Mormon coal mine, but I don't believe it's within our park boundary unless I'm mistaken. And I'll have to do a bit more research on it.
Not to put you on the spot, but would you mind giving everyone a little bit of background about the Mormon coal mine for those of us who haven't heard of it?
Okay, this is purely off memory. I don't know if I'll get this right, so please correct me if I'm wrong. It was a, well, it was an attempted coal mine, I believe, that ran for just 2 years, and it was, oh gosh, I want to say it was 1857 to 1859 or so. And I don't believe they actually ever found the coal, though supposedly if they had just kept digging a couple more vertical feet down, they would have found it. And it was this very short, brief venture that has gained great myth and legend within the community.
That's fascinating. Do you happen to know why it's called the Mormon coal mine?
Oh, I believe it was a member of the Mormon church that found it, that did that it was the Mormon, like a Mormon man who did the mine.
Well, that would be appropriate, wouldn't it? That's cool. Lauren Pandori would like to ask, how do you decide what treatments each place needs? And do you preserve archaeological sites? Great questions, Lauren.
Yes. Okay. So that is kind of going with that balance of collections. It's also a balance of what is valued at a particular place. If we're going to, again, our treatments are preservation, rehabilitation, restoration, and reconstruction. So obviously, if there's a building that's no longer there and you want to bring it back for historic significance, you would go with reconstruction unless there's some other reason why you wouldn't. It is going to be looking at the purpose of the park if we're looking at the national park system and what the visitors want to. It's done in collaboration with a group of people, and it's given much thought and consideration, I'd say anyway. With archaeological sites, yes, those are preserved all the time. Some of them are preserved for visitor use, and it'll be a funny moment of, well, sometimes the public already knows the archaeology site exists. There's bedrock mortars that visitors love to go out and see. And if you don't know what a bedrock mortar is, it's just these giant slabs of stone where grain or seeds were ground down into flour just on bedrock. And it creates this beautiful slick, and the public knows, and you work with the public to make sure proper care is taken of the site and to also garner appreciation for what is there and what comes next. It's also a matter of taking care and working with your tribal partners to see what they want as well. If they are interested in having their site, what was their cultural artifacts, visited in that such way, or if it should be taken care of in a different way.
Yeah, very good point. There are many people to consider and voices to listen to in this process. Follow-up question. You mentioned that the visitors, what they want is also considered. Is there a way for visitors' voices to be heard in these considerations?
Oh, yeah, for sure. So there's the, this is a, well, if at a park, there is usually going to be some kind of feedback system. I know at Cabrillo National Monument, we have our How Did We Shine? And that's one way we hear visitor voices. If we are doing a big project, there's actually a way that our projects facilitate communication with the public and get feedback in that way too. It's a project, oh gosh, it's the public commentary. I'm forgetting what the acronym stands for. But yes, it is definitely there to be taken advantage of, and we do want to know.
Yeah, absolutely. And spoiler alert, I knew the answer to that question, but I was asking on behalf of everyone else because I'm sure there are some people watching this that are like, hey, I had something that I had an opinion about or that I really wanted to be heard on. I wanted my voice to be heard about. So thanks for answering that.
Of
There are ways
course.
for you to be heard.
I mean, yeah, Sam, if you
Yeah.
know of a better way than what I've mentioned, do tell.
No, that's exactly what I was going to say is especially for the public comment, when we do those big projects, we do open them for public comment. And those comments are taken into consideration as well, as you mentioned. All right, Locke. Locke would like to know if all the paper in storage has been digitized. Great question.
Ooh, that is a great question. Yes. To my knowledge, no. But it is starting to be done, or rather it's on the docket to be done. It is a slow process, as we are a small team and we all wear many hats, but there is a way to get help to do it with our other partners, as well as volunteers or interns if we have that kind of help in that way too.
Maybe a citizen science project, actually.
Ah, yeah.
My creative juices flowing here.
Excellent.
Carol would like to know that she's heard that there have been some interesting items found during construction of the Oceanside Trail. For those of you who don't know what that is, there is a new trail being cut at Cabrillo National Monument, or created at this time, from around the lighthouse down to the tide pool area. It's temporarily named the Oceanside Trail. And so Carol would like to know these rumors that she's hearing, if those are true, and would you care to share any tidbits? Oh, sorry, this is Larry Holt on behalf of Carol Holt.
Oh, well, what are the rumors saying? I don't know the rumors.
Yeah, I don't know. So maybe you need to type in a little follow-up here what the rumors are here, Carol and Larry. But have you heard anything, Sabrena? Have we found anything that you know of? Something interesting?
Well, we did conduct archaeology surveys across the field, and we are working with Joshua Tree, the facilities and trail partners to get the trail going. And it's an ongoing process of monitoring and making sure that if things do come up, they are properly recorded and relocated off trail. Let's see, I know there's some cacti that have been found that have been removed before the trail was built, and they'll be put back during our revegetation phase of the project. I would love to know what the rumors are saying, though. Yes.
Yeah, me too. And then I can answer the second part of your question, which is what is the name of my good-looking cat? And his very important question, folks. His name is Bilbo,
yes.
and I'm sorry, he's still a kitten, and he was very insistent. He really wanted to be on my lap, so I figured it was less disruptive to just put him there for a little bit than to have him step on my keyboard and walk in front of the screen. So I apologize if that interrupted the talk. Gary has some questions for you. He's wondering if there are any plans contemplated for opening up the Battery Point Loma site for interpretation. Do you know if there are any plans for this?
Let's see. It's kind of funny because I'm not sure which Battery Point Loma specifically is. Is that Battery E the one on the bluffs?
I think you're asking the wrong person. Sorry.
Or maybe
I don't know which one he's referring to.
It depends.
Oh, Ken's
okay.
raising his hand. Go ahead and type in the chat there, Ken, or type in the Q&A, whatever works for you.
Unless it's the one on Bayside Trail.
Or Gary, you can type in as well.
It's funny because
okay, so
I
Gary,
know like
Gary says it's the one near the tide pools. Sorry to interrupt.
Oh
Yeah,
gosh,
Gary said it's
no.
the one near the
You're
tide pools.
okay, okay. The one near the tide pools. Got it. Okay. Along the ocean. Oh gosh, now I have Oceanside Trail stuck in my head. The coastal trail, right?
Right.
I'm
Around the
assuming
coastal
so
trail.
anyway.
Yeah. Yeah.
As of this moment, there aren't any plans to open it up, as far as I'm aware. It's it's got a very delicate rusting roof that we do have plans to rehabilitate in the near future, though. So, maybe someday, who knows?
Right. Again, it goes back to that person power and the resources that we have available to us. But yeah, that would be pretty epic, I think, if they were able to open that up at some point. Um, Patricia Simpson would like to know, what sort of things are you working on with the different Kumeyaay tribes?
Ooh,
Great
fun
question.
question. Yeah. Right now, we are doing a lot of focus on consultation of the new trail that is being constructed. And in the future, what I would love to work with them on, if they are interested, is that ethnographic overview and assessment, understand better their history with Point Loma and Cabrillo National Monument, and uh, also just build relationship in that way. I know there's many ideas. There's many ideas we have, and it's hopefully going to be really cool.
Agreed. Yeah, and I think we'll
We
just
had an
have to
incoming
wait and
bird I
see.
saw.
I know. I'm so sorry about this, folks. My
Oh
animals
gosh.
are
Oh
just
no, you're
not
fine.
behaving
I
themselves tonight.
I did half of my grad program via Zoom.
I know this is the both the blessing and the curse from being in home during these things.
Mhm.
Karen Scanlon would like to know. She says, she's a comment here. She says, "I wish we researchers had better access to the archives. In recent years, we haven't had the park staff to participate, and this I understand. Thank you, Karen. But is there any hope of our gaining access to maps and documents in the near future?"
I mean, that is very untrue and unfortunate that there hasn't been the park staff in the past. It is definitely on my mind for sure. It is part of that ongoing process of doing our scope of collections work, as well as doing a better understanding on my behalf of what we do have in our collection. I am definitely open to the idea, though, of sharing that information and the park maps and any other of our collections that we have. Uh, I do believe it should be public and ready to be viewed, whether that's in person or hopefully digitized as well.
Yeah, it sounds like you and I should connect about maybe doing some social media posts on some of these cool items in the archives. At least
That'd be
people can see it
fantastic.
that way. And I know you make a lot of people happy if we're able to kind of provide more access to these things in the future. Carol, again, would like to know, was there any military hardware found on the trail? I think this is regarding the little goodies kind of found in the Oceanside Trail that's being cut. Any
Oh,
military hardware found on the trail?
uh, military hardware. Well, I let's see. We have in our collection, we have historic shell casings. There is the Panama gun mount that the Oceanside Trail will kind of pass by, and you can see it from the bottom half of the trail. Part of, we found this weird metal tube, and I don't know how else to describe it. It's 3 feet long, a couple inches round, and it was probably part of the historic gun mount. But I can't tell you more than that at the moment because I just don't know.
Hmm. Yeah, interesting. I'm sure this has got to be something that you run across a lot in archaeology, where you find these remnants of human history, but they're just something that's denuded and that's falling apart. That's one tiny piece of something bigger, and it has to be such a puzzle to be able to figure that out.
It's a
Oftentimes,
fun puzzle, though.
yes, exactly. Um, did anybody like to know if there are any plans to restore the pop-up searchlight on the coastal trail?
Mm. So, oh, maybe this was a different structure than previously discussed. Sorry if
I think
I
so.
misanswered a question then. The pop-up structure on the coastal trail uh, is what I thought previously of the, hopefully we will be able to uh, restore that rusting metal roof and also rehabilitate the structure for some kind of public use. I think that would be super cool to see what a searchlight actually did. I can tell you I have myself been inside of it, and it needs a lot of work before it's ready for high visitation.
Right. Yeah, for the safety of the structure and the safety of the people, I'm sure.
Both,
Um,
yes.
I think Lauren Pandori wanted to add something to this discussion about researchers gaining access to the archives. And it's a great point that she brings up here that you can request access by submitting a research permit. So all of y'all researchers out there, just know that you can gain access. You just have to go through the proper channels by submitting a research permit.
That's an excellent point. Yes. Thank you, Lauren.
Yeah, indeed, Lauren. Thank you. And then Karen, again, to continue this conversation, this thread that we're having here, she holds a collection of documents and family photos, and she's not sure where to put them. She'd love to give them to Cabrillo, but people can't really get to them in the archive. So she was thinking, she's seeking your advice, I think, the U.S. Lighthouse Society or the San Diego Historical Center. Do you happen to know if either one of them would take these documents and maybe what that process is here?
Yeah, it's entirely possible one of them would take them. I myself am not too familiar with their organizations. I would say it's definitely worth reaching out though and seeing if they are able to. Right now, Cabrillo National Monument is not accepting any gifts as we are working on finalizing our scope of collection. And that is possible to change in the future, but for now, yeah, reach out to those organizations, see what you can find.
That's a great point that you bring up, and good for folks to know that for now they'll need to look elsewhere. And then Gary, once again, last point, I think, before we're going to wrap up here. He says that anything you find, even inert shell casings, could be used down at the Bayside Trail searchlight shed. So I think he's just, Gary, I'm not really sure what your point is, but just hoping that maybe we'll be able to display these in the future. So I'm sure these things are in good hands and are obviously not being thrown away or anything like that. They're being, kept in the archives. So maybe at some point they'll be used for interpretation purposes in the future. And with that, folks, we're going to go ahead and wrap it up because it's already 7:01. Again, I would like to thank Sabrena for coming and all the rest of you for being here. I'm Sam Wins, biologist and science educator at Cabrillo National Monument and host of the Naturally Speaking series. We will be having another one of these likely in November, that we haven't scheduled it yet. I'm in the process of doing that. So keep your eyes peeled on Cabrillo's website, Cabrillo National Monument Foundation's website, and our social media channels for the next Naturally Speaking talk. And with that, I release you to your evening, Sabrena. Thank you so much for being here tonight. And thanks,
Thank you so
everyone.
much, Sam. Thank you, everybody. Have a good night.
Have a good night. Bye, everyone.